Let's cross now live to Noga Tarnopolsky, our correspondent in Jerusalem. Hello, Noga. First of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about that big interview that Benjamin Netanyahu gave to the Wall Street Journal. Can you tell us a little bit what some of the main takeaways were from that piece?
Yes, good afternoon. Well, that op-ed, in fact, that he gave an interview to an op-ed writer in the Wall Street Journal has made a lot of waves in Israel for several reasons. One is sort of domestic, and it's that Prime Minister Netanyahu hasn't given an interview to an Israeli journalist for around 3 years now. So the fact that he keeps making these declarations to the foreign media is always noted here. But the other thing is one of the lines in that interview in which he said that he would not accept an end to the war. That's one condition he won't accept, even in exchange for the release of all the Israeli hostages, around 100 who are still being held in Gaza. And that has caused huge commotion here because it's the top and it's the constant condition put by Hamas, the organization that is holding these hostages, is an end to the war. And more Israelis, around 80% now, are demanding themselves an end to this war in exchange for the hostages. So Netanyahu staked out a pretty extremist position, and he has been subject to enormous cries from the families of hostages, from many of their supporters, and from the leaders of the Israeli opposition, who accused him openly of torpedoing these talks and of betraying Israel's national interest.
Well, you mentioned those talks, those negotiations. Where are they standing? Because we hear that there's some leeway being made, and then we're told actually they're still pretty far off. What's the status right now?
It's a really good question. And, you know, there's always, whenever two countries or two entities are in tough negotiations, the line is that as the closer you get, the harder it gets. And I think that's where the two sides are now. And the massive pressure being placed on all sides, it's not just from the Qataris, who are, negotiating in some way on behalf of Hamas, the Egyptians and the Americans, but it's the fact that the American administration is about to change. So while the Biden administration and President Biden's team are putting a lot of pressure on Israel, the fear among the Israelis is that President Trump may actually put more pressure on, because he has made it completely and totally clear that he wants to take over the presidency of the United States when there is no more hostage issue. He doesn't want to have to deal with a war. It's one of the few things he's been very consistent about. So I think what we're hearing in all these confusing messages that you just mentioned is that on the one hand, the mediating nations all feel that a deal is now possible. And on the other hand, for Hamas, it's dangerous to accept any deal that would remove it completely and totally from power. And almost the same for Prime Minister Netanyahu, who fears that if he signs an agreement ending this war, that his more extremist ministers will quit the government and topple him from power.
And we're, of course, getting ready for Christmas. Can you tell us a little bit about how all of this political situation in the region is affecting or having an impact on the Christmas preparations in Bethlehem, in Jerusalem, where you are?
Yes, absolutely. And I can also share with you, I was just at a press conference with the Cardinal of Jerusalem, one of very few people Israel has allowed into Gaza. He left Gaza just about 4 hours ago. And reported on the situation of Christians there. But the main message, he said, is that on the one hand, the churches are holding a full-blown Christmas, that the local Christian communities deserve and need to celebrate this holiday this year, despite the ongoing war. And yet he said that the lack of pilgrims who are coming to the Holy Land this year really makes the local Christian community incomplete. He said that pilgrims coming from around the world for this holiday of Christmas really are what make the Holy Land Christians complete. And he issued a call for pilgrims to please return to the holy sites and to the shrines here in the Holy Land.
Thank you very much, Noga Tarnopolsky, reporting live there from Jerusalem. And this wraps up this edition. We'll be back very soon with more news on France 24.